Announcements. This Sunday is an all-day sitting. Please come if you can. It's good. It's important. Longer days of sitting together, cooking together. Come out of an all-day sit feeling well cooked in the best ways. And I'm going to be next week really confused about time. I don't know about you guys. This weather is really confusing. What season are we in? Where are we? I called up into the Sierras, and they're talking about 5 and 7 foot snow drifts up there. You know, it's like, hey, but you know, like whatever. Okay, anyway, we're going camping.
Where?
Let you know how it is.
Where?
Up around Mammoth.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, there's a few
snow still.
Yeah. They said you can't get up in the high country,
Yeah.
but it's open down below. And anyway, if I don't get to the mountains, I don't feel like I'm living a well-cooked life. It's kind of my thing. So next Tuesday, Ellen and Rachel, both gardeners and cooks extraordinaire, not to mention human beings and practitioners, will be leading us. And don't miss it. And then Thursday, a week from today, because today is Thursday, right? Just affirming that. Debbie will be giving a talk on focusing on the excerpt from the Tenzo Kyokan number 4, which is a wonderful story about Dogen meeting Tenzo when he went to China. Looking for, so what's this Zen thing really about? And it was a simple Tenzo that he brought home with him and then went back again to find out more. And then I'll tell you about the following week and the following week after that. I'm not going to confuse you any more than I already am. But that's what I know for the next week. So why don't we then let's get close together. If you don't have a Tenzo Kyokan near you, and Gretchen's going to put it on the screen for people on screen, and we'll chant it out loud. And what we're going to do is, what I want to do today is begin to enter into
it's just a reference song. It's just
is just
cataracts.
Give us a ground for that when people one of the most beautiful ground teachings in the Tenzo Kyokan is about the 3 minds, and I want to enter into that a little bit today, and then we'll come back to it when I return. So we're going to read together section 6, 7, 8, and 9, and we'll come back to it and do it some more, I promise. Okay, here we go, everybody together. When you prepare food and cook it, you should use all the strength and effort of all your life and concentrate them into this one day, this one time, so that you may form a strong connection to the Buddha Dharma. A mind that views things in this way is called a joyful mind. Truly, the deeds of a wheel-turning holy king disappear like water, froth, bubbles, or flames. It is of more value to you to prepare meals and offer them to the 3 treasures. Kind mind, parental mind, is the spirit of fathers and mothers. In the same way that a father and mother dote on an only child, keep the 3 jewels in mind. Even if parents are poor or desperate, They love and nurture their child. People who have not had this experience cannot understand this state of mind. They can only understand it when they themselves become fathers or mothers. Without regard for their own poverty or wealth, parents earnestly turn their thoughts towards raising their child. Without regard for whether they themselves are cold or hot, they shade the child from the blazing sun or protect the child from the cold. We may regard this as kind mind at its most intense. A person who arouses this spirit is fully conscious of it. A person who cultivates this spirit is one who truly awakens to it. In the same way, when you handle water or watch over the rice, you must sustain the caring and warmth of child rearing. Magnanimous mind is like a mountain, stable and impartial. Exemplifying the ocean, it is tolerant and views everything from the broadest perspective. Having the magnanimous mind means being without prejudice and refusing to take sides. While carrying something that weighs an ounce, do not think of it as light, and likewise, when you have to carry 50 pounds, do not think of it as heavy. Do not get carried away by the sounds of springs, nor become heavy-hearted upon seeing the colors of the fall. View the changes of the seasons as a whole, and weigh the relativeness of light and heavy from a broad perspective. Whether you are the head of a temple, a senior monk, or other officers, or simply an ordinary monk, do not forget the attitude behind living out your life with joy, having the deep concern of a parent, and carrying out all your activities with magnanimity. So, what I want to do is, the last few weeks I brought cookbooks, and we heard from Ed Brown, we may again, and Deborah Madison, we may again, and Annie Somerville. But today, I want us to hear from Suzuki Roshi. Here's a lecture that Suzuki Roshi gave on the Tenzo Kyokan. But I want to start with just a little excerpt from How to Cook Your Lives. Big mind. What is big mind? Suzuki Roshi uses the same words. This is Uchiyama. Is everything that we encounter inevitably becomes our life as soon as we throw out our ordinary way of viewing things. Usually we set up a world in opposition to ourselves and then go about trying to pocket for ourselves as much wealth, power, and happiness from that world as we can. It's true. I mean, some of us do it this big, and sometimes we do it this big, and sometimes we do it this big, but it's just study the self. When our way of life accords with the Buddha Dharma, we no longer construct a world in opposition to what we think of as our self. Rather, we see that the whole world is the true self. This path is the way of the Dharma. Since there is no longer an other to be dependent upon, we have neither a need to be swayed by someone or something we think exists outside ourselves, nor do we long for things that we project as being apart from us. That's why this is called continuous practice. This is ongoing, continuous, moment after moment practice. And they're not even moments after each moment. It's just moment, moment, moment. When Shakyamuni became fully enlightened, he is repeated to have said, I attain the way simultaneously with the whole world and all sentient beings. Everything, mountains, rivers, trees, grasses, all attained Buddhahood. I love that saying. What in the world is he talking about? Ask that question forever. The following similar passage is from the Lotus Sutra. The three worlds are mine, and all sentient beings in them are my children. In other words, big mind as awareness that the whole world is one's true self is the foundation of the Buddha Dharma. Life must take the form of living activity, and the Tenzo Kyokan teaches us that the self inclusive of the whole world is nothing other than the very things, people, or situations that we presently encounter and know, and helps us to discover our lives through these things. And in turn, pour all of our life ardor, life force, back into them. And then quotes from Dogen. Once he has these ingredients, the Tenzo, she must handle them carefully as if they were his own eyes. And both day and night allow all things to come into and reside within your mind. Allow your mind, self, with a big S, and all things to function together as a whole. Big mind, then, is not a matter of meditating on some vast floating spatial dimension. Big mind, then, is not a matter of meditating on some vast floating spatial dimension. Rather, it is the practice of entirely devoting your life to each and everything that you encounter, no matter what it might be. Sounds good? Okay, now let's live it. And let's help each other live it. And what is this? So, you ready for a little help from Suzuki Roshi? We'll see what he has to say. Because this is an unedited talk by Suzuki Roshi, so I went through and edited a little bit. But what I'm not going to edit out is where he laughs, because that's where I feel like I get Suzuki Roshi as a human being and what he was transmitting through his personhood, because this is pretty serious stuff. And he laughs a lot. Okay, so here we go. The mind which we will acquire or obtain by our pure practice is something which is not graspable, which is beyond our words. But at the same time, the mind will respond to everything, completely ungraspable and completely responsive to everything. So positively speaking, our mind is like a mirror which reflects various objects in it. You know, when we do the dedication of merit, we say, may we awaken to Buddha's luminous mirror-like wisdom. Like, do you ever think, what is that? Mm-hmm. Good. Me too. What is it? What is it? May we awaken to Buddha's luminous mirror-like wisdom. When there is no object, the mirror is something which you cannot even see. This is the mind we will obtain by our pure practice. And he says, this afternoon, I want to make the relationship between our big mind and everyday activity. In everyday life, how the big mind reveals itself will be the point I will talk about. So what's it look like? What's all this mean? What's Buddha's luminous mirror-like wisdom look like in the everyday? What's it look like in the kitchen? What's it look like when you go to the bathroom? It's all the functioning of the great mind. Dogen Zenji explained this mind in his Tenzo Kyokan, which is the instruction for the monks who work in the kitchen. Those who work in the kitchen must have this mind. And work in the kitchen is the extended practice of Zazen. or their way working in the kitchen should be based on our pure practice or big mind. Especially for those who work in the kitchen, it is necessary to have big mind because they will have various difficulties. Now I'm going to go on to describe that. But first I wanted to say a couple things that I forgot to say. Is I think on Sunday I want to give a talk on Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, who's the Bodhisattva of great activity, shining practice Bodhisattva. So Samantabhadra might be the Bodhisattva most associated with kitchen work or gardening work or everyday activity, and I thought it would be fun to turn towards that. The other is, part of me doesn't want to recommend a TV show, and you really might not like it, and you do have to sign up for Hulu. So having said all of that, and it's rather intense, and it does just one of those warnings is it does kind of have at the center of it, although it's the backstory is that there is a suicide that brings you into the, but it's called The Bear, and it's about work in the kitchen in Chicago, and it's so intense. There are many difficulties, and there's also this amazing sense of food and revering of food and of taking care of each other as a reflection of taking care of the people and serving the food. Anyway, I haven't watched many of them, but so far I think it's probably a modern day Chicago Tenzo Kyokan. Okay, so Suzuki Roshi says, food is very important. And to prepare food may be the most important work in the monastery. I'd say in the home. It's important. It helps bring up children. It helps bring us up. It helps we take care of ourselves. And usually, he says, we do not eat good food. The food we will prepare will not please the monks in the monastery. That is quite usual. Probably no matter how hard you try. I mean, every now and then if you give them chocolate cake, like all of us, we'll be like, whoa, man. But then there's always a little of this or a little of that. The monks, even though they prepare something good, will not be satisfied with it. So he's kind of giving us the bottom line of, these aren't monks out there in medieval Japan. We can find these in us. They will want something better. And then he laughs, and there is no limit to their desire. And he laughs, and he laughs. So they will always have complaints. And what they will do in the kitchen will always be criticized. So folks, you can't win. And you have to cook. I'm looking at Erica, who hopefully we've been a little more gentle on her as the Tenzo, but you just human beings are. So even though there is nothing to criticize, they will be suspicious. They will be suspicious. Ha 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 about what you do in the kitchen. So to work in the kitchen is very difficult work. Also occurs to me, this is of course going on inside of ourselves. No matter what we cook, we're going to be critical. And I mean, no matter what we do, there's always going to be somebody inside kibitzing on it. And anyway, so first of all, Dogen says, you must be a person of big mind to accept criticism and complaint and not smile. Because he says, and then he laughs, if you smile, they will be even more angry. And then he laughs some more. So you cannot even smile. And he laughs. Just to accept what they say and just to understand our human nature is only the way. Wow. That's how you'd know if somebody was ready to be a Tenzo, or stupid enough, or to ask somebody is you know what, this isn't easy work. And can you just do it? Will you just be here? So first of all, Dogen Zenji counts the big mind. We just read about big mind, magnanimous mind. The mind is great as a mountain and wide as a sea, or else you cannot be responsible for the kitchen work. The next one is kindness. Even though the material is not so good, you should take care of food and vegetables and fruit with great care. Are you finding yourself being kinder? Like when it's like I've been buying, I always love peaches and apricots, but I've been picking them up this season. I mean, even Suzuki Roshi he used to drive his wife crazy apparently because he would go to the grocery store and he would buy all the injured vegetables because he knew nobody else would buy them. Of course, then his wife would say, "What did you do?" Okay, you should take care of food and vegetables and fruit with good care. So, Dogen counts kind heart or kind mind. And the third of the three minds is one will always have joy in your work. Joyous mind is the first. Then he calls it the kind-hearted mind. He calls it old lady's mind, which I think is grandmotherly mind. Kind mind is grandmotherly mind. Interesting, he calls it old lady's mind. And great mind, the third one is great mind. Then he tells a story. I thought, am I going to tell this story? And then I read the story. I thought, I think I really need to read this story. I've never heard this story. I've never really read this whole lecture before. Okay, you ready for the story? In Japan, there are many fishermen's and fish stores. There are many fish stores. And besides so many fish stores, we have some people who are carrying fish and selling it. Those people, fish should always be fresh. So they are running on the street always with a big flag, and they are always full of joy. They look very happy. They're always active. And then he laughs. If they are not happy, the fish will look old. And he laughs some more. I was thinking the definition of an Eno is one who brings joy, I think joy and happiness to the assembly. There's plenty of grumpy Enos in the world. There's plenty of grumpy Tenzos in the world. I mean, I've got a grumpy part of me. But, it's like if why would you invite somebody in and be grumpy? It's like, why would anybody want to do that? I remember Norman Fisher saying when he founded Everyday Zen and he was leaving Zen Center, which he loves dearly, and he said, if this doesn't make you happy, don't do it. Go do something else. I mean, of course there's periods of time where you're not going to be happy. I mean, that's just, study your state, study your mind. And the minute it gets hard, if you're out the door, you'll do it someplace else too. But mostly, do it because you love it. Okay. The fish is just more fresh if they carry it with joy. It looks fresh. And he laughs and laughs. When fish become old, the eyes, turn to white from blue. And blue eyes is not any more blue. And even though they carry white-eyed fish, if they carry it with joy, and if they are running, and he starts laughing harder and harder, the fish, looks very fresh. It's like, how do you make this tradition? Sitting down for Zazen. It's like, oh God, here we are again. I'm half dead. But if you do it with joy, who knows what happens? It's completely alive in this moment. So if a monk who is responsible for the kitchen work is not happy, the food tastes very bad. Even though it is good, it doesn't taste too good. So Dogen Genji, laugh, laugh, they must be like a person who is carrying fish. No, he didn't say so, ha, 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 but that's what he means. The Tenzo should always be happy. If he is not happy, all the monks will not be happy. And the more complaints you will have, and the Tenzo will be criticized more. So first of all, Dogen says the Tenzo should be happy. I would say the person. Cultivate it. Study it. I know Crabby as well as anybody. Let's do pure confession and then keep plunging into practice. The next thing is to have old lady's mind, grandmother mind. Usually by nature, an old lady is very kind. Well, maybe in Japan, let's focus. It's why I practice, because I really don't. I don't want to grow up and be more and more a crabby old lady. Oh please, oh please. Or we say the mind of parents. It's also parental mind. Is Buddha's mind. Buddha's mind is parents. They raise children with great care. And there's something in here about how if you haven't been a parent, you can't know that mind, and I actually don't agree. I mean, I don't. But I get maybe his point. It's how I entered it. It's how I know it, because I have a kid. But that's not the only way. They raise children with great care, with great love, and they do not miss any expression of their baby. And when it is cold, they will take off the baby's coat and cover the baby. And when it is hot, they will carry their baby on the cool side, exposing themselves to the sun. In this way, they raise their children. So Buddha mind must be like the old lady's mind who raised children. You may say that is our instinct. It's who we truly are. If we get out of our own way, in a sense, that's what's so wonderful about being around a baby, probably ideally not ours. That's why grandparents are so great. They just make you happy when you look at it. You can't believe it when they smile. And then when they cry, you give them to somebody else. No. Whether it is instinct or their kindness, the mind they have is valuable. Because of this, everything grows. Because of this, we are so happy when we are at home, and we will not forget how we were raised in the family, maybe, when you were young. Or we can imagine it. Even though we do not say thank you, but we cannot forget it. The kind of mind is the mind of parents, and big mind, great mind should be like this, he says. And the great mind. Dogen says great mind is the mind of mountain and or the sea. If you do not have great mind, you cannot take responsibility. Because we don't know when this person will give up, when this person will quit their responsibility. We cannot rely on and trust this person. Sorry, bad ingredients. Sorry, stupid people in the kitchen. I'm out of here. No, just keep coming back. Come back. Come back. Doesn't mean there's not some way to respond sometimes that, I mean, it's not like you just take everything on like a mute, dumb person. But it's really a heart that just is here. Especially if a person who is responsible for the kitchen quits their work, all the rest of the monks cannot eat. And that's why this mind is necessary. And by this explanation, I think you must have understood what do we mean by Buddha mind or big mind. I'm going to ask you in a minute. Although our mind is something graspable, something ingraspable, its activity is so great and so warm and so clear and full of joy. This is the interpretation of the Buddha mind or great mind by Dogen Zenji. Because we are too intellectual and so too difficult to put faith in something which you do not know exactly, some explanation is necessary. Some intellectual explanation or interpretation is necessary. So we have to talk about something very intellectually or logically. But actually, there is no other way to appreciate than to practice our way. You can't know this any other way than through practice. Knowing the purpose of practice with right understanding of our way. There's more, but I'll do that some other day. So I thought, okay, so big mind. Big mind. What is it? And what is it that's not just some intellectual, well, maybe it's this or maybe it's that, but There's no other way to appreciate it than to practice our way, and knowing the purpose of practice with right understanding of our way. So what is big mind, and how does it inform your practice, which you could say coming to Sangha, sitting on the cushion, but practicing in the kitchen, practicing in the garden, practicing in the midst of politics, practicing in the midst of whatever your problems and whatever it is what is big mind, and how does it, how can it, not all the time because I forget as well as you, how does it help inform and enliven your life and your vows to practice with and for all beings? So we've got I don't know, a little less than 15 minutes. Why don't I put you